Hey guys, it's Rebecca. I am so sorry it has been so long since I've updated. It's been kind of chaotic and crazy here. It's probably going to be 2 or 3 parts since there's so much that's happened in the last few weeks. Um, Obviously, Miss Emmaline is here. She arrived on July 21st at 7:56 a.m. Those of you who are on my Facebook account have seen pictures already and have sent lots of well wishes. Thank you guys. Um, but I haven't been able to get on YouTube. Um, Let me kind of start from the beginning. I went to my doctor's appointment on Monday the 20th of July, and my blood pressure was skyrocketed, and he was really concerned about that. And he had been concerned the week before and said that if it was still up, that they were going to induce. So um, he sent me over to the hospital, and we started the induction. And I was still bound and determined to try to do it natural, and I made it 10 hours. Um, they had gotten the Pitocin level up to 28, which was pretty strong, she said. And I was getting contractions. They were less than a minute apart, and there was like hardly any break in between. And I finally was begging for the epidural, which I didn't think I would, because I've fairly high pain tolerance from what I understand. But I got to the point where I was throwing up and shaking uncontrollably and couldn't regain composure at all. And I finally gave in. So after 10 hours of laboring with her, they came in and checked me. And when I asked for the epidural, they checked to see where I was, and I was still at 1 centimeter. I had not moved whatsoever. No matter how long I had been, it just wasn't moving. And so they went ahead and did the epidural, and the anesthesiologist said, now it's going to take about 20 minutes for all of it to go into effect, so I'm going to have you lay down here on your side, and after 20 minutes then we'll go ahead and we'll proceed with what we need to do. And the doctor will come in and check you again and make sure everything's okay. So I immediately laid down, and as soon as I laid down, my water broke. And the nurses were actually laughing because they had never seen so much water. And I knew that I had a lot of fluid. The doctor said I was at the 90th percentile with amniotic fluid, so I had quite a bit of fluid in there. But it went down the bed, and it was like flowing off the bed onto the floor. They had to use a blanket to soak it all up because there was so much. But that kind of made everybody laugh. At that point in time, though, I was feeling pretty good because the epidural had kicked in, and I wasn't feeling anything at all close to what I was feeling prior 10 hours. So the doctor comes in, and he does the exam, and then it was probably 30 minutes or so at the most, waiting for the doctor to come in from the epidural to him getting there. And I went from 1 centimeter to 5 centimeters in that 30 minutes. And so I started to move, and we were like, great, we'll proceed, but I want to go ahead and just, make sure everything's going okay. So when he did the exam, he found I was 5. But he was poking around, and he goes, oh, wait a minute. And when he pulled his hand out, he had noticed there was some meconium on his hand. Apparently, Emmaline had flipped somehow in that 10 hours of labor from head down to butt down. And when he was poking around in there, he made her go to the bathroom. So she pooped in his hand, and that's when they decided to do the emergency C-section, because they could attempt to turn her and chance her ingesting that meconium. So they went ahead and got everything all prepped and ready and did the C-section, and she was born Tuesday morning, like I said, at 7:56. Emmaline weighed 7 pounds 2 ounces, and she was 19.5 inches long. Absolutely perfect, just beautiful baby. I'm so blessed. I know all moms say that about their babies, but I just can't believe how perfect she is. And the doctors are she's this perfect little, even though she's 7'2", she didn't look it. She was this tiny, petite little thing. And I'll show you her in just a minute. She's over here sleeping. So I was in the hospital obviously for 4 days because of the C-section, and um, recovering from that was a little tough. It was nice to have some help with the baby the first few days, because C-sections really wear you out. I mean, obviously it's a major surgery, but it was just nuts. So, but I kept spiking a fever, and they said, well, it's normal to spike a fever with the surgery, so we'll just watch it, no big deal. Well, when they went to send me home on Saturday, the doctor didn't even come in. He had seen me Friday and went ahead and wrote my discharge papers on Friday for Saturday. Didn't bother to come and see me. And so I was a little upset about that, because Saturday I noticed that my incision site was red and kind of hard, and it was hot. It wasn't, and it hurt more than normal. I had to, if I didn't take the pain medicine exactly at 4 hours, I was in terrible pain. And like I said, I usually have a pretty good pain tolerance. When I had my gastric bypass, I was off the pain meds in like 3 days, and here I'm on 4 or 5 days for this, and I was nowhere near even stretching it out to the max time, let alone getting off of it. And then I still had a fever, and they said, well, that's normal. He said you were fine, so we're going to discharge you. So I'm like, okay. So we went home Saturday, which was my birthday, and they didn't really do anything on my birthday. Just brought baby home and tried to relax a bit, because it had been a long week. And then Sunday came around, and I sent Tim and Sage off to church and came and stayed home with the baby and just was going to rest. But I was just feeling miserable, and my temperature kept fluctuating up and down. And I just thought, this is weird, and my stomach started hurting even more. And so I called the exchange, the doctor's office, and the on-call doctor said, well, if your temperature is, if it's over 100.6, or 100.8, excuse me, then you go ahead and go to the emergency room, because that's a sign that there's an infection. And I said, well, it was at 100.6, and then it went to 100.8, so it just got to 100.8 now. And he's like, well, go ahead and go to the emergency room and have them check you out. I'm like, okay. So Tim and I and the baby hauled ourselves off to the emergency room, and we're there for 8 hours, because the emergency room was trying to get a hold of my doctor, who was not around, and the exchange for some reason wasn't calling him back. And so they waited and waited, and finally they sent me home 8 hours later with some general antibiotics for like a skin infection, in case I had something like staph infection, which they don't know, but it wouldn't hurt to take it. And I said, well, as long as it's safe for the baby, because I'm breastfeeding, then that's fine. And they said, yeah, it'll be fine for her, it won't hurt her. I'm like, okay. So I go home, and this is Monday, and I make an appointment to see the doctor immediately. First appointment he has available. At 1 o'clock on Monday, I go in, and he's like, okay, well, let's put you on this other antibiotic, and I'm waiting for the results back from that test from last night about your skin infection. And then if you don't have that type of infection, we'll take you off the first one. I said, okay. And then, I'll talk to you tomorrow. So that would have been Tuesday of last week. Well, Monday night, my temperature spiked up to 102. And I started getting chills and shakes, and I couldn't stop shaking, and I was freezing. And, I'm wearing a sweatshirt and a thick blanket in the middle of summer here, it's 80 degrees out here. So I took 2 of my pain pills, and they have Tylenol on them, which is nice. That helped with the fever, and that brought it down to 100. And that got me through the night until the next morning when I can call the doctor. I think I'm going to go ahead and do part 2 now. So I'll be back in just a moment. Look for part 2.